Petrolhead's the movie Alps and Pyrenees. Sync clap for Patwick. How am I looking, Patrick? Pretty tired? Yeah, I thought so. And although it's good sort of light for filming, it's also almost too much that I need sunglasses, but then I'm not going to put sunglasses on because I think that's less engaging with everyone. So, anyway, let's crack on with this. Oh, you're probably going to need to put that in the outtakes or something. Bell end. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my longer and extended version of the Petrolhead Tours Alps and Pyrenees. I guess we'll call this the movie if you want. I did the Alps and Pyrenees earlier this year in the summer with my good friend Patrick from Talk Chasers, who's editing this, you lucky man. And it was awesome. I just wanted to do a bit of a recap on that journey really, because I know there was a lot of unused footage. There was also a lot of videos that we were putting out at the time that maybe you guys and girls didn't get a chance to watch. So I kind of wanted to accumulate it all together in one sort of movie that you could watch, because I know the ones you have watched of mine and of Patrick's you've really enjoyed. So I thought, why not, rather than that footage going to waste, why not share it with all you guys? Let's just go back a little bit and talk about the history of Petrolhead Tours and what it's all about. Now, I've been lucky enough to do 3. The Alps and the Pyrenees trip was actually my 3rd trip. So I did the Alpine Adventures trip last year with them. I did Scotland at the beginning of the year. Well, I think it was April time in my then brand new M140i. And then I did the Alps and Pyrenees trip a few months later with my M140i again and with Patrick, as I say. Awesome, incredible journey. I mean, that was amazing because of so many reasons, but we'll talk about them in a second. So Petrolhead Tours are run by Pete and Dan, who come on all the trips, and they currently drive a pair of M240i's. One sits at the front, usually Pete, and Dan usually sits at the back. So Dan's like the sweeper of the group, and they just keep an eye on everything. Pete stays out front, calling everything, cyclists, oncoming truck.
3 cyclists oncoming on the left-hand side, pedestrian on the right-hand side.
Hazard at a junction, whatever, like everything you need to know. We've all got radios, and Pete basically keeps us in line as well. We come into towns, 30 zones or 50 km/h zones as they are mostly in the rest of Europe. He's always just making sure that although we're all having an awesome time and we're let off the leash in places, and it's our own responsibility at the end of the day, but Pete and Dan always just make sure that we respect a lot of things that need extra attention. So it's just awesome having those two around. That's not to mention the help and everything else that they do. We all get loaded up with Garmin sat-navs that have each day's routes plugged into them. So every single road, not just A to B and it would decide where it wants to take you. No, there's probably 100 waypoints that they have to input for each day. So even if you do get lost, you won't miss out on any of that particular route during that day. Or if you do need to divert for an emergency petrol stop, or I don't know, you've got something wrong with the car for whatever reason, you can divert your way around the route, etc. So it's just brilliant. So you've got nothing to worry about. And I've talked about this in my other Petrolhead Tour videos, that it's just scot-free. I'm driving along now and making this video. I kind of know this road. I'm not too sure where I'm going, and I wish I did know, because then I can focus more on making the video. But with those trips, you're constantly, if you're not following someone like Pete or Dan or someone else, you're always following the nav that tells you exactly what's going on, and it's hassle-free. It's just, you can just let your mind focus on what you're doing, the driving, the scenery, etc., or when you're next going to get fed or drink beer in that evening. It's just brilliant. It really is. You can just let yourself relax and focus on having a good time effectively. In terms of the groups of people that are there, they're so varied. As I say, I've been on 3 different Petrolhead tour trips, and each time it was mostly new people. I've seen there's regulars as well that pretty much do all of them. But yeah, you always meet new people, and they're always incredible.
Yay!
And all just like-minded, you know, we all get along like a house on fire. Sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a week before everyone is mingling, but at the end of the day, you're all there for the same reason, and you all experience exactly the same thing. It's just great. It's like an evolving story, if you like, as you go along, and it's just it's so incredible. The whole experience, you leave from these trips feeling like you've just experienced the most amazing thing in the world, and you pretty much have, especially if you're into cars and beautiful scenery. It's not just about cars, and I'll quickly touch upon that a lot of these Petrolhead, I love the fact that so many people turn up with their respected wives or husbands, depending on which way you look at it, and their wives or husbands are usually Petrolhead, you know, fanatics as well, but sometimes they're not, and sometimes they come along to enjoy the actual scenery and the hotels and the adventures that we get up to. It's like watching an episode of Top Gear. You know, the Fifth Gear and stuff was more about the car and reviewing, whereas Top Gear, the reason Top Gear has been so popular in the past, at least, is because you get to see these incredible, you know, countries or landscapes and roads and stuff that even if you're not a Petrolhead sort of person, if you're not into your driving, you watch Top Gear because of that, and it's the same for these trips. So if you are thinking about going and your partner's not sure, you know, she or he might be like, oh, I'm not sure, honestly, it's worth it just for the scenery alone. But saying that, aside from Patrick, my partner, I wouldn't probably want my loved one in my car with me all the time, because I do like to push to near the limit a lot of the time, and I'm not sure many people would enjoy being in the car with me for that length of period. You alright, mate?
Yeah, man.
You alright?
Yeah, man.
They're really hot now.
I need you to stop just for a sec.
Oh, you feeling sick?
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Oh no, you should have said. I've made you feel sick again.
Yeah, could you,
Yeah. Sorry, I've made Patrick feel sick again. Sorry, Pat. So for the Alps and Pyrenees, we started in Kent, and in fact Pete tends to do that a lot. If you're jumping on the Eurotunnel and going abroad, so like the Alpine trips, a lot of his trips, they start in a hotel in Kent. You can either stay there the night before, or I usually drive down, save a bit of money. I don't stay there. I usually drive down and meet them in the morning for the morning briefing. So we all have breakfast. You initially get to meet the rest of the drivers that are there, and you get your initial briefing. You get a briefing every morning from Pete and Dan. They're usually very informative, very funny, and definitely worthwhile. Oh no, that didn't work very well. We get on the Eurotunnel, and usually the first day, especially for the Alps and Pyrenees, it's what I would call the most boring day, in the sense that you're just bombing down the motorway, getting down towards the Alps and getting down towards, you know, the sort of the good roads, and in our case, getting down towards the Black Mountains in Germany. So that night we flew down there. I think it was about 400 miles in total of driving, which sounds like a lot, but when you're surrounded by other amazing cars and people, and you're on radios and having jokes, and we had some toll races. Patrick put in some toll races. M140's fast, it's about 380 brake, but that over there is an E63S with nearly 700 horsepower.
Okay.
So we'll just do it on the third horn, yeah? Watch this.
Oh my god!
So arriving at the first destination, which was just near the border of Germany, sort of southeastern France. I can't remember the exact location, but a real nice little town. And you look forward to a very good dinner and some well-deserved beers, and that's when you first like properly mingle with all of the other drivers and really get to know them. You know, bit of alcohol in the system and everyone loosens up, and it's just great. But at the same time, you're quite exhausted because it's been a long day, so you turn in quite early and look forward to day two. And day two is always a good one on, in fact, every Petrolhead tour that I've done. Day two is is the first proper day's driving. The first days you really get to open a tap. Saying that, we shot straight over into Germany the next morning, so day two, and we were on the Autobahn, and I was, you know, maxing my car out, as were most people. That's it, limiter. Oh, we beat the limiter! It was a lovely little stretch of Autobahn. As always, the Autobahn's always quite busy. It was kind of late morning, so rush hour-ish, but brilliant. Straight into Black Mountains, incredible roads around the Black Mountains. Lots of motorcyclists and cyclists and stuff, so you've always got to be very cautious. But again, having Pete out front calling things, that's not gospel. You can never, you know, there might be something that either he missed or something that's appeared, if you're 10 cars back, something that's appeared between the time he's gone past and you've gone past. But just having him there is just amazing, because you just have that peace of mind. So yeah, Black Mountains were just incredible, like absolutely awesome. And it was the first time that Patrick really experienced the Petrolhead tours, as it were. You know, everyone going fast, and we hadn't turned the wicks right up, but we were pushing on, and it was great. And I know Patrick had an awesome time and had a big grin on his face, as did I and everyone else.
Whoa! We are absolutely pushing on, mate.
Mate, don't speak to me, man. I'm full focus mode at the moment. Dan is absolutely on it in front in his Estrial Blue AX. I'm not sure how much further I can keep up with this. My tyres are overheating. My fuel gauge is moving really fast.
Just look at the way he's taking this corner.
Oh, he's got full aero. Look at his aero out the back.
He's rolling. He is absolutely rolling in it.
And this is what makes it, like, I go on about it a lot, and Dan and Peter's so good at driving. So, oh, one sec, he's waving us bye. Cheers, mate. See you later, Dan. Bell end. So after a blast down the Autobahn and a blast through the amazing Black Forest, we then headed back into France on day 2 and visited this incredible motor museum. Again, I can't remember the name of it, so Patrick, if you wouldn't mind putting it across the screen, that'd be awesome. Thank you, mate. Handy having you. This museum was incredible. Now, I'm not really into my sort of classic cars too much. Like, I don't claim to know too much about them. I appreciate them. But this place was unbelievable. It was like the TARDIS when you went inside. Really beautiful, really well kept. And it had the biggest Bugatti collection in the world. You've never seen so many. I can't remember the numbers, but there was as many Bugattis as your eye could see. You know, it was literally just endless Bugattis. So we're inside the museum, and it's actually incredible how many cars there are. They're really old cars. Like, most of them are sort of my sort of age, like 100 odd. But there's a massive Bugatti collection next door. I believe it might be the largest Bugatti collection. We're not too far from the home of Bugatti. But yeah, it's fascinating, amazing. I don't know anything about these cars because they're way too old for me, but still very interesting. It was just awesome. It was a really, really cool place to be. Again, mingling with the others, getting to know people a bit more, and just having a laugh. After that, we had an incredible drive down through, I guess it was like the foothills of the Alps, towards our hotel for that evening. It was just lovely. Like, the roads, it was quite flat but with some undulation. Just incredible roads as far as you could see. There was no one around, no traffic, and we rolled into this beautiful hotel with an outdoor pool, and it was just awesome. And in fact, that night, so that was night 2 of being together, and obviously everyone's a lot friendlier at that point, and we're all mingling and stuff. We had an amazing dinner, as you do at most of these hotels, but the dessert was a bit of a letdown. Patrick grabbed hold of Pete from Petrolhead Tours and jumped in Robin's E63 wagon that's tuned by Brabus, because 610 horsepower isn't enough. And they looked at where the closest McDonald's was. I think, off memory, it was about 25 minutes away or something. And basically they shot off in this E63. We're in the middle of nowhere, and the valleys were just alive with a 4-litre V8 twin turbo by AMG, one of the greatest engines on the planet. You could hear it for miles, and they disappeared. Long story short, they managed to go to McDonald's and back with, I think it was 17 McFlurries in a little over the time that Google had predicted it would take to just get to McDonald's.
So this evening, Pete from Petrolhead Tours and I are having a little challenge. We've been tasked by everyone upstairs having dinner to go get dessert. So, it's a 21-minute journey by the sat-nav, 17 McFlurries. We reckon we can get to McDonald's in what, 17 minutes?
Yeah.
How about that? 700 horsepower with a D-cat. It's the old English to French communication barrier, hey? The heat. The race against the sun is not being helped by a man in a boat.
It was brilliant. It really was, and we were all in hysterics, you know. In the meantime, we're there sort of drinking, knocking back a few beers as the sun was setting. It was just a perfect scene. In fact, I went for a quick swim as well that night. It was just lovely. Day 3, we immediately rolled out of bed, and after our breakfast and briefing, we were straight into more foothill sort of alpine roads. And we're very close to Switzerland, as you are in a lot of places obviously throughout the Alps. But But one thing that we definitely, or Pete and Dan definitely decided to do was avoid Switzerland this year. Switzerland, beautiful country, incredible scenery, some of the best, if not the best roads in the world, but they hate drivers, they hate cars, they hate motorbikes, they hate the world, the Swiss. So unfortunately, not all the Swiss, I've got some good Swiss friends. I'm going to sneeze. But unfortunately, yeah, the Swiss in general just hate cars and noise and anything. I've been done there before. My good friend Baron von Grumble, he got done big time on his motorbike out there earlier this year. I think 4,000 euros or something. So yeah, avoid Switzerland at all costs unless you want to creep through that country and not enjoy any of the roads. So we skirted around Switzerland and really started to sort of climb up into some of the bigger sort of alpine roads, and it was just awesome. In fact, I have a very avid memory of that particular day. I remember I was maybe mid-pack and I needed to stop for a comfort break. Obviously, when you're in the middle of the Alps, there's plenty of places for comfort breaks if you're a guy anyway. So I stopped for this comfort break, and I remember just hearing the sounds. It was so remote again, there was hardly anyone else around us, and I could just hear, I was like, oh, yep, that's the B58 of a 240i. Yep, that's the E63, just picking them up. Yep, that's the McLaren. And it was just amazing, it was a moment. It was one of those moments that you have, and I wasn't even driving the car, I was just standing at the side of the road. And then, of course, once everyone's gone past, what have you got to do? Well, you got to get in your car and you got to chase them all down. And so that's just, that was such a good day. We got our way through to Lake Annecy, which is one of my favourite spots. I remember going there as a real youngster because my auntie used to have a house down near there. And I went back again last year with Petrolhead's Alpine trip, and then I did it again with the M4CS video, and that's where I did my review. And I only was there because Pete from Petrolhead Tours had advised me to go there, and there's some amazing roads leading in and out of Lake Annecy. The scenery is amazing, and there's a lovely little bakery, I guess you'd call it, that make really nice fresh sandwiches and cakes, and we just all chilled there, and it was just amazing. It was such a nice moment before we went and attacked this piece of road that I did my M4CS review on, and what a piece of road that is. It really is incredible. So yeah, we attacked that and then did a number of other sort of little passes that led us into that night's overnight stay at yet again a beautiful hotel, really good. In fact, one of my favourite hotels on the trip. Really good food. We stayed down the Alpine trip. You do share some hotels between trips, which is good because you're familiar with them. But really good food, really good beer, and yeah, we had a great evening that night. I remember, yeah, having some proper laughs with Patrick, just reciting the day or the days that we'd had up to that point, and I knew in the back of my head that it was just going to get better and better, because that's kind of how Pete and Dan plan these trips. You know, they you don't sort of start here and then just peak early and then level out. They usually get better and better and better the days, which is brilliant, because obviously you want the excitement to carry on going, and it's so good. So that was end of day 3.
Joe. Joe! Oh. You can't see anything. I need a torch. It stinks.
Day 4, new day. Woke up, lovely breakfast, briefing. Pete told us that we're going to be joined by the mud nomads, aerial nomads, and in fact, one of the guys was from Drive Alpine as well. Patrick, if you could put some things on the screen here for their Instagram accounts. Really interesting characters, to say the least.
I'm a loon. They only let me out today. Did you know that? I've just got day release. They've got to put me back tonight.
Wow. And these guys spend months of the summer just cruising around the Alps in their aerial nomads. And well, number one, they can drive. Number two, they're just really cool, lovely people. And number three, yeah, we got to spend most of that day with them. So we basically rendezvoused with them shortly after leaving the hotel, and followed them and drove with them. And that's Patrick jumped in with one of them and experienced the aerial nomads on the Alpine roads, which I'm sure would have been absolutely incredible. Now, that particular day, I was feeling a bit under the weather, maybe a bit exhausted actually, because it does take a lot out of you. And the great things with these trips, and I've talked about it in other videos, is that if you are having a bit of an off day and you want to chill, you've got the nav, you know where the end destination is, you could go directly there if you want to. Like, you don't feel obliged to sort of go with the group every day. So I backed off and let Patrick passenger with the nomads, and I had a fairly nice, actually chilled day. And in fact, I had to go to a pharmacy to get some medication because I was just feeling really low. I just had severe man flu, so it's perfect for me. I just had a bit of chilled time, did my own thing at my own pace, and then met up with everyone else at this incredible lunch spot. Again, it was a lunch spot that we used when we did the Alpine trip, and it was just incredible, like absolutely beautiful. I would try and pronounce where it was. I believe it was Lac de Seri Poncon. Oh, something like that. But anyway, it was definitely on a beautiful lake with a beautiful bridge and just an amazing setting, really good food. So yeah, fantastic. And that's where we departed our ways with the nomads lots. They went off and did their own thing, and we carried on our journey. We had an amazing afternoon's driving again. Unfortunately, one section of the route was closed, but as with all these things, Pete was straight on it and managed to find a diverted route where we went around where this road was closed, because you can't control things like that, especially in the Alps. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen if it's an avalanche, even in the middle of the summer. I can't remember what the reasoning was, but it was closed last minute, so we diverted and had an incredible drive, and then joined on to the rest of the route. Anyway, that afternoon was a little bit sad because we turned up to this place that I can't even describe it. I've never had my breath taken away so much. It was just incredible. And I'd used all my drone batteries. I had one battery left with about 23%. So the drone would just about take off. Unfortunately, I decided to then crash my drone and never retrieved it. But you've heard and seen enough of that, so I'm not going to go on about it. was a big dampener for me, obviously. Big expense, but it was one of the most, if I forget about that happening and I look back on that day, it was just, wow, the driving. I remember at one point I was chasing Pete in his 240. I had Adrian behind in his M2. It was just the three of us. I remember it was like a BMW gang, and Adrian and Hillary were behind, and it was just about half an hour of really good, serious driving. I don't think we passed one other car, bike, or anything. It was just us, and then we led to this beautiful spot. So it was from a massive high to then crash my drone to a massive low. Excuse the pun, but it was just it was amazing all the same.
Leaving the village now. Let's go and have some fun.
We stayed in an incredible hotel that night. Again, lovely dinner, lots of beers, everyone taking the piss out of me, crashed my drone, blah, 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 blah. The next morning, so day 5, there was an optional thing in the morning. And again, Petrolhead Tours, Pete always throws these optional things in. So, you know, I think on the Alpine trip, there was an optional Stelvio Pass one evening, or you could just chill at a hotel. This was an optional dawn raid of Mont Ventoux, which is one of the most famous Tour de France ascents there ever have been. One of the most incredible mountain passes and roads, and a place that if you go there in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day on a Sunday, it's congested with bikes and cars, and you know, but at 5 a.m. as the sun's about to come up on you know, at that time of morning, there was literally no other traffic. It was just, it was amazing. It was so, my hairs are actually going on end just thinking about it. It was incredible, it really was. Again, I was following Pete. I had, I think, Johnny Hassel behind me in the E63 wagon. It was just mega. It really, really was. It was something that I'll never, ever forget. And just such an experience. And we were down back at the hotel in time for breakfast to start. So we'd kind of done all of that, and it was only, 8 a.m. or something. It was insane. It was just incredible. Really an amazing experience. Later that day, Patrick and I decided to spend the day trying to retrieve my drone, which was about an hour away. I managed to find a climber online. We went and spent the day trying to retrieve that, unsuccessfully, unfortunately, but still it was an amazing experience and day, and we tried to make the most of it. Cause every little drone is gonna be alright. Whilst the others sort of went across the bottom of France, heading towards Spain, and we joined up with them. later that evening in yet another stunning hotel. On to day 6, wake up, fresh start, put the drone behind me and just enjoy the rest of the tour, because obviously we only had a couple of days left, so I wanted to make the most of it. And see what happens with these trips. Because it's all very well us getting some footage of everyone, but we're going at such a pace that Patrick and I have to set off ahead of everyone else and then basically play catch up for the next 20 minutes. Over to the foothills of the Pyrenees. Now, I haven't driven in the Pyrenees for a long time, and when I did all those years ago, it was, I think, in the back seat of my dad's car when I was a youngster. So I hadn't really driven or experienced the Pyrenees for many years, and I assumed they would be very similar to the Alps, and they weren't. They were very different, very green, and much less cars and bikes, and I thought they were amazing. I personally rated them higher than the Alps. Okay, you didn't quite get some of the amazing scenery that you did in the Alps. I think, yeah, that's fair to say that the Alps is more open and more picturesque in that sense. But in terms of driving roads, wow, the Pyrenees are good. So, yeah, we meandered our way through the foothills of the Pyrenees, stopping in this incredible grotto for lunch. I mean, wow, this place was just unbelievable. It really was another breathtaking experience. Now, after that, unfortunately, I was playing devil's advocate and I was running out of fuel in my car. We could have diverted slightly and gone and got some fuel, but we didn't. I thought I'd get to the end of the day, or at least to the next petrol stop, which I think off memory was about 70 or 80 kilometres. The problem is, it wasn't 70 or 80 kilometres on a road like this, it was 70 or 80 kilometres going into the Pyrenees itself, so you tend to use a lot more petrol, and obviously being me, I was pushing on a little bit until it got really bad.
Today you join us on a game of will we run out of fuel or won't we? So there was a petrol station. We drove straight past it because we are now currently on how many miles to fill up?
I think about 60 kilometres. We're in
60 kilometres.
Mainland Europe, mate. Kilometres, nothing miles out here.
60 kilometres of fuel left. We should have filled up, and we said we should have filled up, and we didn't. Welcome to the best game in the world.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah. Siphon the tank. Siphon the tank? Don't you mean sick?
We're gonna run out of fuel again. Baguette. it turned out all right. We were fine. We didn't run out of petrol, but it was very touch and go. We had zero range for about 15 miles off memory. I think we managed to limp along in zero range. So yeah, so that was interesting. But looking back on it, like I said earlier on, it's no big issue, because if I had run out of fuel, someone would have rescued me. Pete or Dan would have come back with a can of fuel for me. We ended up in Spain that night in another incredible hotel. I mean, so picturesque. I actually had my first gym session about 2 weeks in that hotel, and the gym just looked over this incredible, it looked out into this valley, and I was just picturing it in the middle of winter with snow and stuff. It would have been even more picturesque, but beautiful. So we're there in the Pyrenees and ready to wake up and do day 7. Go. Yes. Fucking hell. Jesus. Auto recall my bumhole. Day 7 was very special because we got up and left a bit earlier than everyone else so we could do some filming, and that's how a lot of this is possible. You know, Patrick and I are always either miles down the road in front, stopping, setting up, filming, and then spending the next half an hour, 45 minutes chasing the pack, doing that constantly. So yeah, some of these shots that you've seen, they don't just happen out of thin air. You know, we have to put a lot of effort, time, and fast driving in to get these shots, because the pack is not moving slowly. So in order to stop and set up drones and cameras and all that, and then catch back up, you can imagine the excess speed and driving you're gonna have to do to get them. So got up early on day 7, left the hotel, and literally within 17 seconds, we were on one of the best roads I've ever experienced in my life. The tarmac, the twists, the cambers, everything. Oh my God, it was just unbelievable. I recall Patrick and I just looking at each other and just going, what the actual...
Pete, it's time for the briefing. Stand up.
Yeah. Hey. Oh, every time.
Should we get cracking? Should we do our thing? Go ahead. Set up.
Yeah.
Film. Bust some balls. Catch back up again.
Yeah, let's bust some nuts.
Always try my best for you. You just know it is true. Where are we now?
Turned out a lot of these roads that we're on, as we were sort of ducking in and out of France and Spain, we were very close to the border the whole time. A lot of these were, Pete told me afterwards, that a lot of car manufacturers do their car launches in that area, which doesn't surprise me at all, because as I say, they were just some of the best roads ever. We had a lovely lunch again, reset, and continued. passed the Tourmalet, and then we ascended one of the most famous and incredible passes in the Pyrenees, which was called the Col d'Aubisque. Have I pronounced that properly, Patrick? Which was just incredible, like unbelievable, really mind-blowingly beautiful, incredible.
Not only do we have the Achilles in his natural habitat of the boot, trying to fly a drone, but he's also looking ahead for what could be the next mating season. Look at the muscularity in those hind legs. Unbelievable display of manhood and sexuality. Now, what you may not know is that these beings, Achilles, are actually asexual. So, like a seahorse, the male actually has the babies.
We sort of cruised down through some amazing forest roads. They kind of flattened out a bit as we went back down into the foothills, if you like, and then we arrived at our, again, amazing hotel, Hotel Spa it was, on a golf course, and it was just beautiful, really scenic. Obviously that night there was options, or that evening, afternoon, there was options to play golf or chill out. I think Patrick and I just decided to have some beers. Patrick probably edited a video, to be fair, but...
And now for something completely different.
Oh. On to the final day, day 8 of the Alps and Pyrenees. We all woke up, everyone was excited but sad knowing it was the final day, but obviously in true Petrolhead Tours fashion, Pete and Dan made sure that the final day was a good one. There was options on the final day, because on the final day of these tours, trust me, tyres are worn out, cars are sometimes knackered, there's all sorts of things, so they factor that in for the last day, and there was an option that you could just drive straight down to Santander, where the ferry was, to take us home. Obviously we decided to do the longer route, even though my tyres were feeling a bit sorry for themselves, they still had enough life in them, and we just had, wow, that was an hour. We decided to do the more interesting, more excited route with the majority of the group, and just had the most incredible drive. the actual name of the roads and stuff, but they were literally incredible. They were such beautiful, stunning roads, and we all stopped for an amazing lunch, a tapas place that Pete just pulled out of nowhere. I mean, obviously he'd been there before, but this place, the tapas, was unbelievable. And we're all sitting outside. It was a beautiful day like today, bright, sunny, obviously a lot warmer because it was summer. But then this torrential rain came in, and we all just kind of sat there, and the tapas got a bit wet, but we just ate it, and it was just so nice. It was like we'd become such a good family by that point, and we really, really enjoyed that moment. Left there and then headed up this last sort of climb, and I remember we all stopped at the top of this climb. There was a nice bit of us. In fact, Patrick filmed everyone, pretended to take a picture, I think, but he was filming everyone.
Oh, you guys!
3, 2, 1, Brilliant!
Yay! You're all idiots because it's a video.
And we all kind of it was the last sort of deep breath of lovely fresh air before we descended into Santander and jumped on the ferry, and it was just a real nice moment. I remember everyone was just so relaxed and happy, and it was almost like the end of the adventure. Except there was one more bit after that. There was about an hour's drive down into Santander, and it had been rainy a bit, obviously at lunch, and so the roads were really greasy because it hadn't rained for weeks. And I remember following Pete, and Patrick was with me, and it was the best sort of half an hour of driving I think I've ever done. Definitely the best on that whole trip, which was ironic. It was almost like nothing to lose, you know, the car, I can do whatever I want to it because we're basically home now.
Yeah, to the left, you're on the main road.
And we just had such an amazing descent. The car was moving all over the place on the very worn Michelins that I had, and so was, Pete's was as well. And we were both over the radio, giggling the whole way. And it was just such an amazing way to end what was, an epic sort of 8 days. We arrived in the ferry that evening, boarded, and then parked the cars up, and I remember just feeling not a sense of relief, but just a sense of, okay, I've got a 22-hour ferry now, don't need to worry about driving my car, that's parked up, let's go upstairs, let's have a shower, and let's go out and have some beers. And we all had the most amazing evening out on deck, drinking beers, reciting the whole week, talking about everything. And it was just epic, and that's what these trips are about. It's it really brings people together, and just you have such a good time. And it was something that I'll never forget, and I'll always have it on me. And I'm looking so forward to doing Spain next year with Patrick again, and some of the other usual suspects on these trips. So I just can't wait. And I know that I go on about these trips a lot, and you probably think that I'm being paid to advertise them, but they are honestly so good. And yes, they're not what you'd call cheap, but what you get for these trips, value-wise, I think is really good. Alps Pyrenees off memory cost me about £2,200. That's Eurostar, that's the ferry, that's the hotels, that's breakfast, and that's dinner. I personally think that's really good value. Obviously, you have got other big expenses like fuel, like probably a set of tyres, and then your lunches and stuff. But really, value for money, I don't know, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, sorry about the sound if it's a bit windy, but it is windy. We're just out on deck. Everything's over. Petrolhead's tours is done and dusted, and we're on the ferry on the way back to Portsmouth. It's 24 hours-ish. It's been awesome, really amazing trip. Massive thanks to Pete and Dan for just being such legends, and yeah, really good. Car was faultless, so thanks a lot, Tony. Bury Heathrow. Met some incredible people. Everyone on the trip was awesome, as it has been on every Petrolhead Tours trip that I've done. Just like to say, obviously, a massive final thanks to Mr. Patrick, who's behind the camera, Talk Chasers on Instagram and on YouTube. I know a lot of you have followed him on Instagram and also subscribed to his channel.
How's that been, mate?
It's what, second, third? Oh no, it's my fifth.
It's been a pleasure anyway.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome.
This trip has just been phenomenal. It's my first ever road trip, so
yeah,
to be on it with you as well.
And it's a proper road trip. I mean, road trips don't get any better than what we've just done. That was the real daddy, and it was awesome. And you're a great passenger as well. Not that I'm a scary driver, but to deal with, yeah, well, you know, I was on my limit a lot of the time, and you just sat there and sort of took it like a bitch.
So just going to wrap this very long video up now. What's this sort of achieved? Well, it's achieved a trip of a lifetime for me again. It's achieved some massively lifelong friends, including Patrick, who, you know, I knew very well leading into the trip, but we had such amazing experiences throughout that trip that, you know, I really took a lot away from it. We had some amazing moments in the car. And yeah, thanks to Patrick for making the whole trip a lot easier for me. It was still hard work to produce these videos and do all the filming, as I touched upon, but just having him around was amazing. Mental support as well. It was great. It was really, really good, and I can't wait to do Spain with you again, Meg. I just wanted to say a quick thanks to Audi UK for providing me with my moving studio today to film this piece. And finally, I'm just looking so forward to doing Spain next year in my M2 competition, which is very close. It's only weeks away. I can't wait to do the trip in that car and meet a lot of familiar faces and new people, I'm sure, on that trip. So yeah, last thanks to Pete and Dan for just making these trips happen. Hats off to you both. What you do, the way you plan, all the details, you're just meticulous, and it's just great, and it's really, really cool to hang out with you guys on these trips as well. You're just lovely blokes, and yeah, and everyone else on the Alps and Pyrenees trip. I'm sorry if I forgot to mention you in this trip, but all of you are just lovely. Like, I'm not just saying that, you're just, every single person that was on the trip, just fantastic. So for now, I'm going to leave you. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and leave any comments and questions below. I'll leave a link to Petrolhead Tours below. Obviously, check out their tours for 2019. I think they're pretty much sold out. They might have 1 or 2 spaces left on some of their trips, but be sure to try and book early for 2020. I'll let you know which ones of those I'm going to be on as soon as possible. Cheers guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.